Everybody ready? I want to call this meeting, the regular meeting of the Campbell City Council this Monday, January 2nd to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bybee. Present. Councilmember Furtado.
Here. Councilmember
Scazola.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lopez.
Here.
Mayor Landry.
Present. I'd ask you all to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have no, we have no special presentations or proclamations, and we have no communications or petitions. Next, I move to oral requests. This is the portion of the meeting reserved for people wishing to address the City Council on any item not on the agenda. Persons wishing to Persons wishing to address the council are requested but not required to complete a speaker's card, and speakers are limited to 2 minutes. The law generally prohibits the council from discussing or taking action on such items. However, council may instruct staff accordingly regarding oral requests. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak under oral requests? See none, and there's none online. All right, I'm going to move on to the mayor's announcement. The city clerk is accepting applications for the Civic Improvement Commission. To find out more about this commission or to apply, please contact the city's clerk's office at 408-866-2117 or visit city's website at campbellca.gov. City of Campbell is committed to supporting its citizens by strengthening its neighborhoods. The city offers grant funding to help neighborhoods build a sense of community through its Neighborhood Association Assistance Grant Program. The application period is now open through 5 p.m. Friday, February 23rd. Neighborhood associations within the City of Campbell are encouraged to apply. For more information, please visit the city's website at campbellca.gov. AARP Tax Aid Program will provide income tax assistance free of charge from February 2nd through April 9th at the Campbell Community Center. The AARP Tax Aid Program provides tax assistance to anyone free of charge, with a focus on taxpayers who are over 50 and have a low to moderate income. For more information, go to campbellca.gov. Spread the love at Campbell's 47th Annual Valentine 5K Run Walk on Saturday, February 10th at 9 a.m. Don't delay. Get registered in advance to receive your free race shirt and medals. For additional information and register, please visit campbellca.gov. Please visit Toast Brand. The ultimate bread experience will be performing on Thursday, February 22nd at 7 p.m. at the Heritage Theater. For more information, please, or for more tickets, information, please visit campbellca.gov. Now we're moving on to the consent calendar. Is there anyone in the council, members or staff or members of the public, that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar? Seeing none, I will in a second take a motion. I just want to recognize item number 9, that we are extending the agreement for the Campbell Safe Routes to School with the School Map Project, and we'll be reporting that to our education subcommittee. So at this point, I'll take a motion.
I'll move the consent calendar items 1 through 10.
Second.
Okay, we have a vote. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bybee. Aye. Councilmember Furtado.
Aye.
Councilmember Scazola.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Aye. That motion passed. turn this thing off. Sorry. Next, we're under public hearing and introduction of ordinances. Item number 11 is a public hearing to consider the adoption of a resolution directing the Community Development Director to proceed with abatement of hazardous vegetation. And we have a presenter of Rob Eastwood, Community Development Director.
Good evening. Item for you tonight is a follow through on the December 5th item that for you that recognize hazardous weeds as a hazard to the city. The city has a contract with County Santa Clara to abate hazardous weeds. The action before you tonight will allow the county to proceed to abate those weeds that are listed in the attachments. I have nothing more to add, but I'm available for questions.
Never done this before, so. So I got a notice about the weed abatement. I was told when I called in that there was a representative out that had been called out to another property in the neighborhood and happened to look at my late father's front yard and saw weeds, you know, but they were the grass, you know, it hadn't been cut. I'm responsible for the property now, and I have done everything to clean up the property and to maintain the yard. I object to being placed on the weed abatement list program. At the time that the picture was taken, I don't know what month it was, but you know, my husband was going through a bone marrow transplant and, you know, cutting weeds in the front yard was not my primary focus at the time. All I can say is that I'm maintaining the property. I'm, you know, not planning on letting the weeds get to that extent anymore. And so I'm asking because it's a hardship to have one more thing put on my plate at this point and to be on a list that they charge me $98 a year for, you know, something that is not a problem. I mean, I'm just asking for you to not put me on another list. So I don't know what else to say. All right. I was told to come here to you know,
Thanks for coming and speaking. And just so so I'm going to close the public hearing. These are the count. Okay, so the public hearing is closed and now we have to council discussion. So staff would have such a comment.
Right, generally the county manages this program. I do want to introduce our representative of the county. You can probably speak to any questions you have on the public speaker that came before.
Good evening. My name is Mo Cumry. I'm the weed abatement manager for Santa Clara County's Department of Consumer and Environmental Protection. And we did inspect the property in March of 23, and it was not compliant at the time of the inspection. We don't have any way of knowing anything about a person's issues that may exist, but our standard practice when we find a property to be non-compliant is to send a letter informing the property owner, inform them of this hearing, and then move forward to this. We didn't do anything to their property last year. No fees have been assessed as of yet. Once the property is placed in the program, assuming that it's voted to stay on the program, it would be on until it demonstrates 3 consecutive years of voluntary compliance, at which time it would automatically be removed. If it is compliant, it will be charged the inspection fee, but only the inspection fee.
It not have a fee right now.
Not yet, no.
And in our decision tonight, is that something that we can discuss taking that person off the list, or? Bill
That is the
shaking?
purpose of this hearing, is for you to listen to the challenges, listen to the county tell you our side of the story, and then make a decision as to whether that would be appropriate to leave on or to take off. And I'm bound by your decision.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'll bring it back to council discussion. Is there anybody again? I see your
I
hand.
have a question. So was the property abated? Were the weeds abated on the property?
Since that time,
Yes.
we believe so, yes, but
No.
we couldn't do it, no.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't do it until it's been through due process.
Thank you.
Couple of things. So in this case, if I understand things correctly, the homeowner will not be charged unless the weeds were not abated and that you then went in and abated the weeds by present policy.
No. This is an entirely cost recovery program. So we have to inspect any property that remains on the list, and the property owner is going to be responsible for the cost of that inspection, which is $96 this year. If the property is not compliant, additional fees would be applied. And if we then have to abate, it would also include the abatement and additional administrative fees. You should have received a packet that has all of the fee information in it. But if the property complies, it would be charged $96, and that would be all.
Every year?
For up to 3 years of voluntary compliance, or until the property is built in landscape sufficient to eliminate the hazard.
So time that our policy is outdated, and when this came up last year, I asked that the entire policy be reviewed. I thought some of the penalties were excessive, and frankly, if someone is in compliance, I don't think they should remain on the list, and I don't think they should be charged every year for an inspection if they are, in compliant. And I seriously consider whether we want to continue this affiliation with the county and whether we want to continue ourselves. And it's something I think that we should ask staff to evaluate and sort of come back with a proposal.
Thank you. I apologize. My name is Sal Caruso, and I happen to live in a jurisdiction. I was here on another item for tonight, but hearing this, I just want to give some feedback. I live in a jurisdiction where there is this county surveillance, this weed abatement program. We have no choice. We get assessed $96 every year, regardless. It was just imposed upon us because someone said yes to this program, and we've been assessed $96 every single year. We have no choice, no say in the matter, because once you're in the program, maybe this is a little different where you have a 3-year grace period, but I tell you, we are trapped in the program. We have no way out. I've appealed to the county. They say, we're sorry, you live in an area that has fire hazard, etc., and therefore you're always in our program. They voted on it, the county board of supervisors, we're stuck in it. So it's kind of a bit of a quagmire. So I just want to give you some background that it's not a fantastic program for people who live there. And we cut our weeds every single year. We've never violated anything. We've never had a violation. Yet, even without a violation, we're just in it because we're in a quote fire hazard zone as determined by the county of Santa Clara. So this is a word of caution.
We have a different program. It's 3 years. It's not for perpetuity, right?
Right. I'm not clear what he's referring to. No property is on this list unless they have failed to comply at least once within the last 3 years. There are other programs in high fire areas within the county that county fire takes care of for defensible space, which would be an entirely different program than what I'm running. I'll work with the property owner happily to find out if they're on our program, and if they are, why. But we don't have we do have people that have been on the program for a very long time because they continue to fail to comply. We don't have anybody that's complied for more than 3 years and still in the program.
Great, thank you for bringing that to our attention. All right, so now we're back to council discussion and or a motion. Anybody else want to?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I do support tonight based off of what we've heard, and appreciate everyone weighing in, taking off the property owner who came here to speak. I think that would be appropriate and within our jurisdiction. I think it would also, I know it's not the motion being voted on, but would be worth taking a look, as you did request last year, Councilman Furtado, and just evaluating the program. I don't feel prepared, and I know it's not what you're saying, I don't feel prepared to make a decision on that tonight. So I do want to move forward this year, but I also think it's appropriate to evaluate if that makes sense. You know, I would suggest that staff figure out if there's a way that to bring the discussion during the priority setting process that we're going to be embarking on. I think that would be appropriate, and as we're considering other sustainability priorities, potentially that might be an appropriate avenue. That'll just be my recommendation preference for tonight.
Okay, and I'm just going to make a comment that I understand hardship, and its address is 826 Waldo Road. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. And so if whoever makes a motion, put that in to take that address off the list. So I'm open to a motion.
Okay, so I'd like to begin a motion that the city council adopt a resolution directing the community development director to proceed with the abatement of hazardous vegetation by the St. Clair County Consumer and Environmental Protection Agency, and to remove address 826 Waldo Road
From the list.
from the list.
The second,
I'll second.
you got that, Andrew?
Discussion of the motion.
Discussion of the motion.
So I wondered if the maker and the seconder of the motion would consider directing staff to review our policy and, you know, come back with a recommendation whether we should remain as a part of this county project or whether we should go on our own or some other alternative.
Bill, are we allowed to add to the motion or just to bring it back to, as our comments?
You can either as part of this motion or a separate one, you could direct staff to review it, bring it back. I mean,
Does the motion maker want to?
That's a
amend?
friendly amendment. I'd be happy to.
Okay, does the second agree with the friendly amendment?
I agree with it. I trust staff to take the direction and feedback, but I'm fine having it in the motion. And as I said, I think it would be appropriate for it to be during the priority setting session, but that doesn't need to be part of the motion.
Okay, do you have that, Andrea? Language that you need? Okay, roll call. Was there more comment, Dan? Or Ann? Sorry, Ann.
I would just say that I would support having staff evaluate the program, but if there has to be some mechanism in which to be able to abate weeds in the city, and if we don't contract it out with the county, then the city's going to be responsible for doing that. It's going to involve staff, and so I think we should be aware of that. And also, there's many of these properties are on this list, and they're on the list every year, and it's purposeful because I believe the property owners would rather have the county abate their weeds than the individual property owner doing it. We have very few people ever that come and object to it, so I think we need to be a little cautious in moving forward and trying to decide whether or not we're gonna change our method of weed abatement. So that's my 2 cents.
And just to clarify that the motion is just to have staff look into it to come back, that we're not making any decision other than that. Do you have some comments? Or?
Yeah, I just want to add if I can, I think that's all well stated. And I think the evaluation doesn't need to be, just do we keep it or not, but I think it's appropriate to look at the cost structure, et cetera. So just as long as it's a real evaluation, that's all.
Dan, did you have another comment?
Just another comment. I read the weed ordinance of the city from last year, and it was way outdated. There were penalties, fines, things like that if people didn't, cut their weeds, and the penalties were sort of like overwhelmingly punitive from our old weed abatement policy. Asked at that time that be reevaluated, and that's why I wanted to make sure it got put into motion that we will be reevaluated. So I agree with you. No decision on our part yet on what we'll do in that aspect, but I just feel we need to formalize the fact that we're going to review this whole policy.
Okay, and so staff has clear direction on what the motion is. So roll call, please.
Councilmember Biden.
Aye.
Councilmember Furtado.
Aye.
Councilmember Scazola.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mo and Rob. Now we're going to do item 12, which is a public hearing to consider the request by Tahu and Associates on behalf of Michelle Bob on the zoning exception to allow construction of a 323 square foot single car garage. Do I have to read this whole thing? Andrea, do I have to read this whole part? Okay, all right, you got enough of what we're going to do, and our presenter is Larissa Lohman.
Mayor Landry, I will be recusing myself from this particular item because I own property within the 500 feet area.
All right, we'll let you leave the room. All right, Larissa, now you may begin. Turn the mic on by hitting that.
Sorry about that. Thank you and good evening, City Council members. Before you is an application for a zoning exception to allow the construction of a single car garage with a reduced setback from the public right of way on property located at 20 Alice Avenue. The proposed project is located within the R16 zoning district within the Alice Avenue Historic District and predominantly surrounded by other single-family residential properties with commercial buildings along Winchester Boulevard. There is an existing public alley located to the rear of the property that provides through access from Winchester Boulevard to South First Street. The site was originally developed in 1939 for Campbell Grammar School teacher Mary Fablinger. The site was developed with a single-family dwelling and a detached garage, both built around the same time in the vernacular architectural style. The building was added to the city's historic resource inventory in the 1980s as a property within a historic district. Since its development in 1939, the house was expanded once in 2020 with a rear addition. As noted on the project plans, the proposal includes the demolition of the existing detached garage and the construction of a new detached single-car garage with a reduced setback to the public right-of-way, which in this case is the rear alleyway as seen here. This new garage will be attached to a new accessory dwelling unit and will be located behind the main primary dwelling. The applicant plans to install a concrete slab driveway and will adhere to the municipal code stipulation that the driveway must be at least 8 feet wide and will be approved during the building permit phase. I added that here. The proposed ADU qualifies for a statewide exemption. Although the setback is not shown on the plans are scaled to confirm a conforming 4-foot rear setback, which is marked here in pink. Specifically, the project is proposing a reduction in the otherwise required setback from the garage to the rear alley. This reduction includes an exemption to the requirement of a 25-foot setback to the public right-of-way and a corresponding reduction to the minimum required driveway length, which is also 25 feet. This exception will allow the garage to be placed within a 9-foot rear setback to the public right-of-way, which is the alley. An incentive offered by the city is to aid in the historic preservation is a zoning exception. A zoning exception is designed to offer flexibility within the confines of the zoning ordinance, especially when it concerns the preservation of historic character of a property. The City Council should rely on the 5 findings as outlined in the staff report to make a determination for the proposed application. And the 5 findings are seen here. This configuration aligns with the current zoning code stipulations, specifically section 213620, which dictates that accessory structures should not be positioned within the front half of the lot or in front of the primary dwelling, but rather behind or to the side of it. Additionally, the city's historic design guidelines for residential buildings advocates for positioning garages at the rear of the property or providing alley access when optional. Furthermore, the proposed location of the garage is the only feasible location for alley access, given the presence of an existing PG&E pole and the accompanying guy wire, which limits access on the eastern half of the property, as seen here. Furthermore, the proposed location, finally, the presence of a large walnut tree prevents the location of a garage here in this location. In addition, the location of the garage in the rear with alley access is consistent with the Alice Avenue Historic District and the surrounding neighborhood. As seen in this above 1928 Sanborn map, the design intent of the tract was to encourage alley access and to do away with individual driveways if so desired. This pattern has continued to present day. Throughout the years, as more and more lots were constructed, the development pattern remained consistent with its initial layout, where now 10 of the 18 lots currently have rear garages that take alley access with a reduced setback lesser than 25 feet, as seen in aerial footage from 2023 here. For these reasons, the Historic Preservation Board recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution recommending approval of a zoning exception, PLN 2023-127.
Thank you. Is there questions from council? I have a question.
Okay.
The tree protection plan and the data plan, the garage doesn't match. I'm assuming the data plan is the correct with the 9-foot setback, but it's not clear to me in front of the ADU. The existing topographic survey shows the X's as a line of a fence, but it's not clear if the fence is staying along the alley between the ADU and the alley.
Good question. I can answer the first one regarding the tree protection plan, which does show discrepancy with the final plan. This was included in the initial proposal. The plan shows the trees is meant to show the tree's location to the ADU and outlines a voluntary protection strategy. Although not mandatory as the tree isn't protected, the applicant has chosen to include this as part of the plan to demonstrate their protection. And the plan sheet here serves to demonstrate tree protection only, not the garage's placement. And then as for the rear fence, we can leave that to the applicant to answer.
Okay, great. So I see no other questions from council. So now I would like to open the public hearing. And the applicant Tao Hum Associates or Michelle Babb. Please come forward. You have 5 minutes if you need it. And please state your name.
So my name is Or Jacob. Teo, who is actually the engineer, he's not present. This is Michelle Babb. She's the homeowner. So far as I can tell, the only question is in regards to the fence, right? Yeah, so we're opting to actually keep the fence. For the most part, we're going to adjust it just a little bit to match the location of the unit to provide privacy, a little bit of private access, so it doesn't look ugly.
Are you going to keep, stop the fence by the front door so that you still see the front door, or will the fence continue to the garage? Because on the plan, there's a return fence, so I wasn't clear.
Yeah,
you are planning to keep most of the fence.
Yeah, so we're still kind of debating what the final, the look is going to be with the fence. It's still not 100%. Ultimately, we do have to conform with the guidelines, city guidelines, everything like that. So we're not 100% settled on the design.
And there's no requirement, is that correct? There's no requirement to take it out or keep it either way, right?
Yes, that's correct. There's no requirement to take it out or to remove it.
So they have the option if they want to keep it.
Correct. It's not part of the zoning exception application.
Okay. All right.
Attention, Mayor,
Speak up a little closer. Thanks.
Sorry. My intention would be to keep as much as possible. The fence was not there. I had to build that from, scratch. There was no security behind my property when I moved in. So I built an entire fence myself, and I've spent, tens of thousands of dollars doing so. And there's an area behind my property that's commercial, and sometimes there's homeless people that sleep there. So I would intend on keeping to the fence to basically, provide security for the remaining part of the property in the front.
Okay, I just didn't know. I wasn't clear to me, so that's why I asked the question. All right, did you need the rest of your 5 minutes, or are you?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, I don't think so. Do you have any other questions? No. All right. And then is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? You guys can go ahead and have a seat.
Okay, thank you.
And I do not see anybody. Oh, I can hit this again. I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to council and discuss or have a motion.
Great staff report and presentation. Thank you. I can make a motion if there's no discussion. I move that the city council adopt resolution approving a zoning exception to allow the construction of approximately 323 square foot single car garage with a reduced setback to the public right of way.
Got that, Andrea? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bybee? Aye. Councilmember Spizola?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez?
Aye.
Mayor Landry?
Aye. That motion passes. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for your presentation. All right, we're going to move on to item 13, which is a public hearing. Oh, get Dan back. I just want to, keep moving forward. Thank you for coming. Gotcha, sorry. All right, we're all back to order here. So now we're going to go to item 13, a public hearing to consider the request from Shashnel Patel, and I'm probably not saying that correct, on behalf of 44 Sunnyside LLC for 6-lot detached single-family residential subdivision. And our speaker is Daniel Fama.
Thank you. Good evening. Before you is an application for a plan development permit, a tentative map, and a tree removal permit for property located at 4456 Sunnyside Avenue. The project site is a 17,000 square foot assemblage of 2 residential properties located on Sunnyside, south of Winchester Boulevard, in the plan development zoning district and the corresponding low medium density residential general plan district. The site is developed with 2 single-family homes that would be demolished as part of the project. The application before you is principally a plan development permit that would allow for construction of 6 detached small lot single-family homes. Each would be 3,000 square feet in living area with garages for approximately 400 square feet, provided 2 parking stalls per unit. The tentative subdivision map would allow for 6 private lots, 1 common lot, and formation of a homeowners association. And then there is also a tree removal permit that would allow the removal of 2 mulberry trees, but not the 2 redwoods that would be retained with the project. Just a quick background on this application. This is one of several SB 330 preliminary applications that was accepted by the city prior to last year's adoption of the general plan and updated zoning ordinance. So under the law, these applications are vested to the standards that were in effect at the time. It's on March 3rd, 2023, that did predate the city's new general plan, zoning code, and multifamily development design standards, the MFDDS, that did not go into effect until June 2nd of last year. Therefore, none of those standards do apply to this application. However, just as a note that notwithstanding, this application would still achieve the same yield of 6 units as would be allowed by the new general plan. In terms of site layout, fairly straightforward, 3 units on either side of an interior private roadway. The buildings along Sunnyside would have a 2-foot setback as measured to the porch line and a 7-foot setback as measured to the building wall line. That setback is a little tight due to the city's requirement that the project dedicate additional right-of-way to account for a new public landscaping strip and public sidewalk that would eventually align with future development of the commercial property located to the east. The lot area table shown here on the bottom right indicates each lot is just over 2,000 square feet, hence the nomenclature of small lot single-family homes. Each home is shown here. This is the composite view from Sunnyside Avenue, somewhat contemporary appearance. Each building would be 3 stories, 36 feet in height, composite shingle roofing, and front porches that would face the street for the 2 Sunnyside units, or inward towards the interior private streets for the 4 units located within the private roadway. And in terms of the tree removal permit, there are multiple trees that would be removed with the application that are not considered protected, therefore not subject to a tree removal permit. However, there are 2 white mulberry trees that are highlighted in purple, number 1 and number 3, that would be situated approximate to either the buildings or the roadway and do need to be removed. However, the applicant was able to preserve 2 mature redwood trees, 9 and 10, that would be situated in the rear yards of the new homes. In terms of review considerations by the City Council, this application is subject to the Housing Accountability Act and the Housing Crisis Act that severely limits the city's ability to impose any standards that are not objective in nature. Back in March of last year, the property's PD zoning did not have any development standards or design standards. Nor is the site with any neighborhood or master plan that provided such standards. So there are very few standards that apply to the project other than a handful of generally applicable standards, such as parking stall dimensions and fencing heights. In terms of general plan consistency, the application would result in a density of 12.8 units per gross acre, which is under the maximum of 13 units per gross acre under the former general plan. Then lastly, in terms of secret review, the Plan Commission does recommend that the City Council find the application categorically exempt under the 15332 infill exemption, and also that the house located on 44 Sunnyside Avenue is not an historic resource under CEQA. The determination is based on a formal historic analysis provided by the applicant that was peer reviewed by the city's architectural advisor, and those materials are in your packet. Therefore, Plan Commission has recommended to the City Council that the Council introduce an ordinance approving the plan development permit, and then separately adopt a resolution approving the tentative vesting subdivision map and the tree removal permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Does council have any questions?
Regarding that last comment that you made about the historic, has no historic value, is that something that the HPV should review as part of the CEQA review, or is that entirely left up to the staff determination?
So HPV's review pertains to properties that are currently on the historic resource inventory. So that's really their purview. And since this property is not, they didn't review it.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Dan?
A couple questions about the parking strip requirement. Are any other properties on that street currently affected by the parking strip requirement?
No, I think I'll defer that question to our civil engineer, Roger Stores.
I'll add to that before Roger comes up. Are the 2 houses on either side have a parkway, or are we merging the parkway strip with the attached sidewalks? Hi, Roger.
Good evening, Council. Roger Stores with the Department of Public Works. So in this instance, we have a lot of redevelopment expected along Winchester Boulevard. The property just to the west, where the Coach's restaurant is, that property has a 10-foot sidewalk that transitions to an attached 5-foot sidewalk, because at the time when that was done, the rest of the neighborhood was really just single-family homes. And as the density has gone up, because this parcel, the subject of tonight's meeting, is right next door to the Coaches, and we anticipate at some point in the future the Coaches is going to redevelop, and then we're going to have to require the full sidewalk width there. We saw that, with the density of this project, it would be a good opportunity to use this property as a transition from the wider sidewalk to the 5-foot attached sidewalk that you see on the rest of the street. I don't know if there'll be too many more development opportunities on this street, as most of them have been built out pretty significantly. There aren't really any lots left with just a house here. So yeah, that was our recommendation, was to do a detached sidewalk with a park strip and a couple street trees, and just
Did the planning commission in their recommendation incorporate this within their motion or action?
Yes, the recommendation is for the plan as proposed.
Okay, and the other question I have is, do we have standards in place for maintaining the parking strips? I've seen a lot of parking strips throughout the city that have been required, and maybe trees were planted initially, and then the tree died, and then nothing happens, and the parking strip looks bad, and nothing seems to be done about it. And so I would almost prefer that there be no parking strips if that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I totally understand that concern. We do have, I think we see it more with single family homes. A lot of times, people infill them with concrete or do other things. As Daniel mentioned earlier, this property will be subject to a homeowners association, generally with the common landscaping that you have. There's a gardener, there's someone who can, they will be, the project conditions also include that the future property owners, the HOA, will be responsible for the maintenance of the park strip and the maintenance of the trees. So we think we'll have a higher chance of success.
Seems like we should maybe reevaluate how we're implementing all of the parking strip concepts, if it's going to be kind of required on, other streets and things like that. There should be some standards that allow us to either enforce that or make sure the parking strips in some way are maintained. But I've also seen it on a number of commercial properties as well, where there's a park strip in front of them.
To get to your concern, I think a big challenge over the last few years has been the drought. Before the droughts, obviously now we're not experiencing that, right? We're getting a lot better weather, a lot more rain. But when the drought got into the second, the third, fourth year, people started doing. They didn't want to water the turf that they had in the park strip. They were letting they weren't even watering the trees. So there's definitely that consideration. So. But again, in this situation, what we found we're more successful, like with the residential projects that have HOAs, because they already have on-site landscaping that they maintain and bring a gardener out for on a regular basis. And then I'd just like to make one other point. Going forward, you're probably going to see a lot more park strips with projects because the new stormwater permit was adopted. It went into effect a little more than 6 months ago. And now they're requiring us, so when a development like this does new curb gutter sidewalk, has to trench out into the street, maybe has to do new paving to widen the street, we're being required to make sure that all the runoff from that new or reconstructed impervious area is being treated. And the only way we can treat in the right of way is like utilize the park strip, do the curb openings that you see in a lot of areas so that the drainage along the curb and gutter makes it into the park strip. So, without that, that's really going to force our hand in a lot of situations moving forward.
Okay, well, I think you answered my question with respect to this property. I just hope in the future we consider the overall plan of parking strips and standards and maintenance and all those things. Thank you.
So I'm looking at the plan. So there's a transition. There's the 5-foot parkway. There's a 5-foot sidewalk, detached sidewalk, but the house on the one side now has an attached sidewalk. So there's a transition on their property connecting the two together. And what I'm hearing you say is the parkway is going to be your SWIP, right?
Well, in the future, it would. For this particular project, as Daniel mentioned, they actually put their SB 330 application in prior to June 30th, which was the cutoff for the new stormwater permit. So we don't necessarily need the park strip for stormwater protection. In the future, we would for other projects. So that's why in this particular instance, if council decided they wanted just to continue going with the attached sidewalk, it wouldn't have an impact on this project. We just think it's a good place to transition, because when the coach's property redevelops, we'll either have a 10-foot commercial walk there, or we may have to put a park strip along their frontage for future stormwater treatment of their frontage improvements. And so this would be a good spot to do that transition. But right now, if you wanted to go forward with a 5-foot, just leaving it as the current alignment, the 5-foot attached walk, we could leave it like that as well.
Great. Thank you, guys. Okay, I'm now going to open up. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Wrong item here. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this item? Do we have anybody online? Okay, so I'm gonna assume they don't want to speak. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Huh? Does the applicant wish to speak? Sashanel Patel? You have up to 5 minutes if you need it.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
How bad did I say your name?
My name is Lance Cornell. I'm
Okay.
Principal Architect with SDG Architects and the architect for this application. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I just want to say thank you to Daniel Fama for excellent guidance through this process and getting us to this point. It's been a pleasure working with him. He's been fantastic and he's provided us great insight in navigating the ins and outs of the entitlement process here. And, I'm here to answer any questions you have.
I will ask you a question. Do you have a preference on the detached or attached sidewalk? Because you only have a 2-foot setback to the walkway.
Yeah, it's 2 foot to the porch, 7 foot to the building itself. I don't really have a preference either way. I understand both sides, and we are amenable to either way the city decides.
Okay, thank you. That's all the time you need. Okay, is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion. I'd like to propose getting rid of the parkway strip. I understand what Daniel was saying about the coach house potentially in the future needing a parkway. It's a 10-foot, but my personal preference was not have only 2 feet from the porch to the back of the sidewalk. You're literally going to be walking right next to someone's porch. And I would prefer to have no parkway, have a attached sidewalk where it's attached to the curb. And that gives you 7 feet from your porch, basically to people walking, instead of having them walking right next to what you have as your front entrance. Does anybody want to comment on that?
So if the council were to decide that, is there some condition that would allow the property owner not to do that in the future should coaches develop and the city wants to have a sidewalk? Are they is the property owner protected from having to do that in the future?
So we have alternative conditions of approval as attachment H, that in lieu of the sidewalk, that area would be an easement. But apologies, I don't think I quite captured your question. Are you asking if in the future the city wanted to reconstruct the right-of-way improvements? Could we do that?
Would this applicant be required to do that if they want to tie it into the coaches?
Well, once the development was constructed, no. The city would not be in the position to impose a requirement on the HOA.
But are they protected with that, with the condition and the condition of approval? With that language?
I suppose the question could be seen, could the city build a sidewalk in the public utilities?
So the way it's set up, the alternate conditions are set up is that we do need a small area where we widen out the sidewalk. When you look at the driveways, to be ADA compliant, you can't build a driveway, an ADA compliant driveway in the 5-foot width like in the old days, because you just have this ramp that just doesn't work for wheelchairs. So if you look at any newer driveways built in areas with attached, what we call attached sidewalk, you'll see the sidewalk kind of wraps around the driveway apron. And so what we proposed in the alternate conditions is that the area behind the driveway apron be, where the main driveway is coming in, it would widen out to 10 feet there. There'd be no park strip or anything. It just would be 10 feet for the driveway. It would be 5 feet for the slope and 5 feet for the sidewalk. There would be no condition or requirement that allowances be made so that in the future the sidewalk could be widened. It's kind of, with development, you decide what you want to do at the time you approve the development, and then just we live with what we get.
So I understand about sidewalk,
Yeah, generally it's 4.5. I mean, I think our city standard right now shows it as 4. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll have a little sidewalk easement in that area, just in that area. It wouldn't go across the entire frontage. It would just go in the area where the driveway is. So we had the legal right for people to use that wraparound sidewalk for the public. Exactly. It's basically there's two little triangular sections at the corner just to allow for that wraparound around the driveway. The rest of the frontage for each of those lots would have the full setback.
Well, I just want to clarify, just hearing the input about ADA accessibility change your request or recommendation?
I think it would, I mean, literally you can have 2 feet from your porch. The only thing that changes now is just really right at the corner, which you have the sidewalk, but for the, you have 7 feet to for a public sidewalk. On my speaker's not on, sorry, do you want to make a motion? So, find it, it's on page 335 of the packet.
I'm looking for the conditions.
Did you find it? Okay. Let's see, where is it? Is it under 13H, alternative DPW conditions of approval? Yes, I hear a yes. And so that would become, which option is that then?
Yeah, so the motion would simply be the adopting the resolution, just make a reference to the attachment H, the alternative DPW conditions of approval.
State it again, please.
So there's 2 actions. The first is to introduce an ordinance for the plan development permit.
Yeah, no, I got it. It's just now I have to go back to
yeah, so attachment H.
I just found attachment.
I'd be willing to make a motion. I'll try a motion. I'd like to move that we approve the planning commission recommendation as recommended by the planning commission, approving the ordinance for the plan development permit and a resolution approving the tentative vesting subdivision map and a tree removal permit.
And I'll second, just with my appreciation to the applicant for being very cooperative with staff from what I hear.
So does that include moving it to a attached walk from detached, Dan?
No, it's the planning commission this staff recommendation. Not
so you're
with the parking strip.
Keeping the parking strip. Okay, and you seconded that. Any discussion further? Okay, roll call or yes, roll call please.
Councilmember Ivy.
Aye.
Councilmember Furtado.
Aye.
Councilmember Scazola.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Aye. Go with the group here. Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to item 14. Oh, sorry, we have to read the title and the ordinance.
Being an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Campbell approving a planned development permit to allow construction of 6 detached small lot, single-family dwellings in association with a residential subdivision for property located at 44 and 56 Sunnyside Avenue, file number PLN 2023-135.
Further reading be waived.
Second.
Councilmember Ivy.
Aye.
Councilmember Furtado.
Aye.
Councilmember Scazola.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Aye. Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to 14. I think we're up to 14 now. Kennedy Avenue. And this is the stack 2 level 1,940 square foot duplex.
Again, this is an application for a plan development permit for 105 Kennedy Avenue. This is a very small 4,900 square foot parcel located at the northwest corner of Kennedy and Industrial Street, also in the plan development zoning district with a medium density residential general plan designation, and is currently developed with a single family dwelling. So the application here, did a little color coding to help decomplicate the site plan. So the application specifically is for construction of a duplex that is located at the rear half of the property as highlighted in orange, along with the retention of the existing single-family home that's highlighted in blue. The application proposes no formal parking, though there is a informal area between the two structures that could be used as parking, and there is a driveway curb cut that would lead to it. The site is within the AB 2097 area, as with the previous application, so parking is not required. The duplex would be constructed at a 3-foot side and rear setback and a 1-foot front setback as measured to the cantilevered balcony at the second level. The application would require vacation abandonment of an existing 4-foot public sidewalk easement that's shown in green that would currently basically preclude the construction of the duplex in the location that's being proposed that close to the street. And then the city is also requiring construction of new sidewalk and curb cuts that's shown in gray around the entire perimeter of the site. And that also does include dedication of right-of-way and creation of a public park strip. And then lastly, the application does include a request to allow construction of a 6-foot tall fence that's shown in brown along a similar fence line as the similar fence. This would constitute a fence exception under the city's fencing standards because of the city's action to take additional right-of-way technically puts the fence line out of compliance. Public Works staff did evaluate the fence line and found that given the side angles and the low volume of the streets, that this would be acceptable in terms of public safety. In terms of design, it's a fairly straightforward, simple 2-level building, 27 feet in height. There would be separate ground level entries for the 2 units. Looking straight ahead, that door would be for the ground level unit. And then if you went straight in left, there would be a second door that would take you to a staircase that would lead you up to the second level unit of the duplex, which also would have an upper level balcony. In terms of review considerations, as with the prior application, this was also subject to a SB 333 app that was filed in April of 2023. This review is also limited by the Housing Accountability Act and the Housing Crisis Act. Similarly, there are no development standards that apply to the former planned development zoning district, nor is the site within any area or master plan that would provide any objective standards. In terms of general plan consistency, the application would be consistent with the former general plan that would allow for a density range of 14 to 20 units per gross acre. And this application would come in at 16.4, right in the middle of the range. The Plan Commission does recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution approving the plan development permit. Thank you.
Does anybody have questions for Daniel? Okay, can you, that drawing right there, can you zoom in on the corner?
I'm afraid I can't zoom in on part.
Huh?
I'm afraid I can't zoom in.
Okay, so in looking at the drawing where the angled corner is that we talked about the sight line, there's a big shrub shown. I understand it's in plan view of how wide it would get, but if your whole issue is the sight line, how tall would those get?
In terms of the planting, I'm afraid I don't know. The city doesn't directly regulate landscaping in that sense. The fence exception here really is simply for the placement of the fence. And again, in a similar location as it's shown here. So this fence currently is more or less compliant, but because the property line would be shifted, then it falls out of compliance. So hence the fence exception to allow it to be reconstructed in a similar location.
And I didn't see a planting plans, so I didn't know how tall it got, but to me, it kind of defeats the purpose of the sight line at the corner if the shrub is 10 feet tall.
The applicant could probably speak to his landscaping choices in the course of posting.
And then on the, you can't zoom in. So the driveway is 11 feet.
I can't tell from here, I'm afraid.
Sorry, let me look here again.
12 feet.
Driveway dimension isn't shown on your map. I think it's 11 feet. And you have that ADA compliant section that steps back so that you have a level area around the driveway open, and it gets within a foot of the corner of the house. Is there a way to make the driveway less, because the other project, it was saying that the minimum is 8 foot wide. Would it make sense to make the driveway down to 10 feet to get it so that the walkway's not in the corner?
I think you're getting to the width of the driveway apron curb cut.
Yeah, because right now to have that 4 foot flat area go behind the driveway, it's within a foot of the corner of the house.
Roger, do you want to?
Is that to ask the applicant or Roger?
Yeah, I think Roger's talking with Tom. I believe the mayor's questions about the walkway around the driveway.
So the driveway width, we can work with the applicant certainly and adjust it to make it a little narrower. Generally for our minimum driveway width that we have in our standards is 12, but we've narrowed it down a little bit before, so I don't think that would be an issue. What we're trying to achieve on the industrial frontage really is upgrading the sidewalk existing is only 3.5 feet wide, so it doesn't meet ADA. So we're asking the applicant to widen that to a 5 foot sidewalk. There was this sidewalk easement, and if I'm giving you more information than you want, let me know. But there's the reason I bring this up is because the applicant also has filed an easement vacation application concurrently with this application, and so you'll be seeing me come back in February if you approve the project as proposed, because the sidewalk easement, like Daniel mentioned, is in conflict with the proposed building location. And it was dedicated about 20 years ago, and it was really because of one of these, there was an ADA driveway put in that location, and somehow we got this sidewalk easement that wrapped all the way around, went down to the next house, and actually goes into that structure. Right, I mean that the structure's within that easement. So we're trying to clean that up and put in just 2 ADA compliant driveways along this frontage with a 5 foot sidewalk. And as Daniel mentioned, on the Kennedy frontage, because with the D.R. Horton project and with the car wash at the corner, we have the full 10 feet. The D.R. Horton frontage did, along its entire frontage, did a park strip. So we're asking this applicant as part of this project to be consistent with that along the Kennedy frontage, and then we just have that one apartment building between that at some point will probably get redeveloped, and we would make it one consistent frontage for this block. So you have the driveway apron, and your solution is to have the 4 foot go around the driveway apron. What about the handicap where it dips down so there's not like a flare on the driveway? It's more running parallel, it drops down and goes back up. Right, I've seen that in other cities where they do ramps. You take the sidewalk and you ramp it down and you depress the driveway apron. We haven't done that at any locations in the city. We just generally do because when you do that, then generally you got to put the truncated domes in as well. And so this way, by keeping a consistent sidewalk, we don't have to put in the truncated domes in the right of way for this purpose.
Okay, it's the same issue on the last one of just how close that public sidewalk gets to the front porch and the front of the house. All right, thank you for answering my questions. Anybody else have no other questions? So I would like to ask Salvatore Caruso, if you'd like to speak, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor, Mayor and council members. First of all, I agree wholeheartedly with staff's report on 99% of everything stated. Working with Daniel and Robbie's would have been fantastic, as well as Roger in Public Works. The only area, so consistently abandonment of existing easement, yes. Dedication to allow wraparound for walking around the two driveway cuts. I am 100% open to decreasing the width of the driveway in order to get more room at that corner where the house intersects with the driveway. We'll work through with Roger, whatever. If they allow 10 foot, we'll do 10 foot. Whatever they will allow, we will do. Construct the new ADA ramps at the corners. I am an architect and the owner of this property. This property is my daughter's property, or will be my daughter's property. And so I'm 100% for accessibility. The current sidewalk is 4 foot. And going to the prior application that we all heard, I would like to keep the existing sidewalks as is. We have a 4 foot sidewalk both on Industrial and Kennedy, and to demolish those to build it 5 foot wide is approximately $110,000 expense, which is a huge ticket. In addition to that, the city has requested the dedication of 583 square feet of land that, based on what we purchased the property for a couple of years ago, is roughly a worth of $118,000 that is being requested of the city to give away freely to the city. So that to be said, can we have some break on this? We're just trying to build something for my family. This is a family property. This is not a development for sale as is typically done and before the council. Is there a possibility that we can retain our existing 4 foot sidewalks on Industrial and Kennedy and do all the ADA work? Most certainly, whatever Public Works allows, as far as whether we ramp up and down, whether we do the 4 foot wrap around the driveways and doing the handicap ramps in the corners. I would like to say, just as an awareness issue, because it's such a small project, it's 4,900 square foot piece of land. The amount of fees that one pays is high. Just for the privilege of giving the city to the land to the city, we have to pay. I paid $4,503 for the city to review the document. I paid $5,400 for the engineers to write the descriptions to give to the city. In addition to that, I need to hand over the land for free, worth $118,000. All of that in addition to building the building. That's before we even put a shovel in the ground to build the duplex. So if we're wondering why residential prices are astronomical, or if we're wondering why there's a housing crisis, not the only reason, but definitely a contributing factor are the amount of fees and free giveaways that we're mandated to do. Everyone's mandated to do. In addition to that, which I found out only in the staff report at the very last line of it, is I have to pay $43,000 in court fees, in addition to everything else. All that sum total is $283,000, over $283,000 of giveaway fees, payments, before we even go in and pay for a building permit. So I'm just asking for a concession. Can we leave our sidewalks where they are, as they are, attached, not detach it, because no one else adjacent to me has a detached driveway. Property next door, I know the neighbor, he has 4 units. They're very nice units. The max he can build on that property under the current general plan is 4 units. So why would he tear it down and redevelop that land to build the exact same number of units? Makes no sense. He's going to keep it in perpetuity. This is a property that he helps his own family with. So the neighbor on the other side is a retired school teacher that the son bought the property in order for her to live there, which is a house that is 3 feet away from the sidewalk also. These are all homes built around 1905, including ours. So this is an area where families live, where we try to help our families to stay in Campbell and be in a beautiful, awesome community. I'm just asking for a little bit of a break. Can we keep our sidewalks attached, not detach it, not give a bunch of land and pay all these fees on top of everything else for free? I'll do all the AD work 100% because I believe wholeheartedly in that. It helps my mom, it helps everybody to get around. That, no exception given, needed. But can we just keep our sidewalk attached at 4 foot, do whatever we need to do for ADA, for the driveways, whatever Public Works allows, and give us a little bit of breathing room so we can actually build housing in Campbell. I think I've known some of planning staff for about 22 years. And I have always been a champion for housing. So if you please let me do this where we have a little bit of breathing room, I'd be greatly appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on this item? Do we have anybody online? I forget how to check here. I don't see any hands raised. All right. The applicant does have 3 minutes, I guess, if there's any response, but we had nobody speak, so I'm not sure that you would have anything new. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back for discussion. And I'd like to have Daniel come back up, please, and show that map that you showed. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Well, we're waiting, just kind of a general comment. The area that's being considered has very low pedestrian walkway. It is a small street. There are not very many people that walk that area. So it's not a highly popularized area. So preliminarily, if we can give some concession as the applicant is requesting, I can understand that just based on the very low pedestrian use of that area. Plus there's a sidewalk on the other side of the street anyway. So that's just a preliminary comment.
Yeah, and that was a great presentation on your part, the property owner. I am highly sympathetic to everything that he was saying. That, and once you put all the fees together and hearing that whopping grand total, I mean, it's pretty shocking. I mean, we got to do things the right way, I understand, but if he's asking for a little concession, I'm all for that if we can do it. So I'm just making that comment right now.
I don't see anybody else. So in regard to what the gentleman was saying, he's not talking about the existing concrete sidewalk that's attached. He's talking about the side street where there's a parkway and the new sidewalk is 5 feet, correct?
I'll defer that to Ron.
You didn't go too far this time.
Just a couple of issues. So the current attached sidewalk along Industrial Street, if you measure from face of curb to back of walk, it is 4 feet. Unfortunately, the curb is not considered part of the sidewalk by ProAg, our ADA standards. So technically the sidewalk is only 3.5 feet wide, and so it doesn't meet current ADA requirements. The additional things that we have asked for is at the corner. There are 2 crossings that do not have an ADA ramp, so we're asking them to put in the ADA ramps for the crossings.
So on this map that he has shown, across the bottom of the map is staying as an existing sidewalk.
Right. So right now it's an existing sidewalk, but we would ask him to basically, there's no easy way to widen existing sidewalk. You try doweling it, you try adding some more to it. It just ends up separating, uplifting. It doesn't work very well. So unfortunately, yes, he would have to take out the existing 3.5 feet of sidewalk and replace it back with 5 feet.
Okay, so the map says existing concrete sidewalk. You're actually saying that is a new sidewalk.
Yes, that along the industrial frontage, the one at the bottom of the map, that would be new sidewalk. It would be new widened sidewalk. It would still be attached, but it would be widened to be ADA compliant.
And going from 5 feet down to 4 feet, so that 4 feet clear of the back of curb instead of 5 feet?
That could be an option as well. I mean, our standard for attached walk is 5 feet, but 4 feet would meet ADA requirements.
Okay, and then the part going this way on the map, that is
the Kennedy frontage. Like I said, we did request that the sidewalk be separated, but if the council decides you'd like to keep it as an attached sidewalk, we could keep it as an attached sidewalk.
And what is this width of the sidewalk that's there existing now?
I believe the existing sidewalk, including the curb, is either 4. Actually, I have a note here if I can look real quick. It's either 4.5 or 5 feet. So it would meet. So along the Kennedy frontage, it's 5 feet from the face of curb to back of walk. So it would meet ADA requirements.
So if the Kennedy's going this way? Okay,
Yes,
so if we got rid of the requirement to have the detached sidewalk, he would save money going this way.
Right.
And then going this way on the drawing, we have to widen something. Can he keep the 3 feet and add a foot, or does he have to do a whole new 4 feet?
in all my experience in trying to add a strip to the existing sidewalk, it just becomes problematic. You try to dial it in. Over time, it just separates, breaks off. It just never seems to work.
Just had to ask for the public
Of
to
course,
understand
of course.
why it's a requirement. Okay, I think that's for my questions. Anybody else have any other comments or questions?
So what you say is a 4-foot sidewalk that's existing now, but it's really only 3.5.
The way it's measured, we're not allowed, per ADA requirements, we're not allowed to use the 6-inch curb as part of the sidewalk measure.
So he's willing to do ADA compliance. Would he be able to do ADA compliance without having to rip up the sidewalk and put in a 5-foot sidewalk?
No, I can't see how to get it ADA compliant along the industrial street frontage. You'd have to remove the existing sidewalk and reconstruct it to be wider. Whether it's 5 feet or 4 feet, it would have to be reconstructed. But again, the Kennedy frontage probably it would be fine the way it is.
Yeah, and that goes to the question I was asking Ann is, can you just add 1 foot to get to the 4 feet? And Roger's talking about how it lifts and separates, and so that was my question too. Do you have any other comments or questions? Yeah.
Forgive my ignorance about so much of this, but one thought I had was, I don't know if this is possible at all, but like it would be a huge compromise and of course a lot less expensive, is are you able to widen the property with something such as something more temporary, removable, like pavers or something that's like perfectly leveled, like you get that extra foot, you know, it's not an official sidewalk, but it's something people can easily walk over and roll over or whatever.
Well, unfortunately, for it to be ADA compliant and be publicly accessible, it would need to be the standard concrete. Anything like like paver materials really aren't standard materials for that. They're more likely to sink and settle.
Thought I'd give it a shot.
And so obviously this request isn't on the table tonight as far as the report. Are we within legal authority to make an exception if that's the pleasure of the council without this being a specific direction from planning commission and or staff?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Standing up, public hearing is closed. But I would be willing to have 2 minutes from here. So I would be willing to respond. So we basically go down to and talks about discussing it.
Yes. Yes.
Industrial staff, this is where to go.
Only that, yes. So thank you for the idea on Kennedy to keep it attached as it is today, since it does meet ADA width. My only thought is that on industrial, I mean, as an architect, we've worked on buildings over age unit range from 0 to 1,000 years old. There are ways to stabilize. I know that the preferred way is to demolish the sidewalk and build it all in one piece, but even brand new sidewalks can crack and move if they're not constructed properly. And I do believe there are ways to add to an existing sidewalk and properly make it stable. We had a soils test done on this property, as we did on 43 Harrison, Alan Hicks property. This particular site has extraordinarily strong soil bearing pressure, which means it's very strong to build on, if you will. So I'm pretty confident, considering that all these sidewalks were built, I think, in the 1930s, 40s, 1930s, I believe. They're not even cracked after 90 years. So if we're considering one area in town where the soils are tremendously strong and stable, this is one of those areas that would qualify. If it wasn't, I would tell you straight up, if this was in Santa Clara where it's clay and expands and contracts and goes up and down with the seasons, different story. But at this particular site, I think the soils are plenty strong, and a soils report proves that scientifically, that we can, abut, a strip on it, make it aesthetic so it looks just like the curb on the other side, flat and level, 6 inches, gives us the width, so it looks like a nicely bordered sidewalk on either side, 6-inch curb on the street side and 6-inch on the inside.
Right,
That was the only suggestion.
Great, thank you. So I have a question, maybe it's to Roger or Bill. Can we do something where we leave that for you guys to decide, or do we have to say right now about the 5 feet?
Let me just say, this is a public right of way. All the liability, responsibility, we have trip and fall claims. You see all the time lifted sidewalk issues. It would be on the city's responsibility. And so what I'm hearing is staff's recommendation. I would really advise you to listen to staff, because they're the ones that are used to seeing these. You certainly can make your decision, but it would be staff's recommendation to stick with the proposed reconstruction of that sidewalk.
Okay, but it sounds like he's amenable to the Kennedy Street of not making him replace the sidewalk on that part of it. All right, so I've asked my questions and gotten answers. Is there any other discussion and or a motion? So if we want to have the motion be to not have a detached sidewalk on Kennedy.
Actually, if in fact we did accept what the builder is proposing regarding the sidewalk, could that person still then be held responsible in case there are cracks and things like that?
It becomes a public right of way that we're now responsible to maintain it. So trip and fall would be our fault. And that's basically what Roger was saying is, I mean, there's a way to dow it together to keep it from lifting, but it's still a seam. It's still somewhere that it could potentially move. And you do need the ADA as the 4 feet that you have to have, and you can't count the curb. Any other comment? I'm open to a motion at this point. Can I take a stab at a motion? So I would make a motion that the city council adopt a resolution approving the planned development permit with the one revision of removing the detached sidewalk along Kennedy Avenue. Anybody have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Does that direction work for staff?
That's clear. Roger, that's clear. It's clear what we're making a motion on. Daniel. Oh wait, Daniel's got to talk to Roger.
So I have a question in the meantime, if I may.
Yes.
So speaking of the public sidewalks, if we leave Kennedy the way it is there still liability issues there with it being detached?
Some of the feedback is that while the sidewalk would remain, it would need to be repaired as necessary, and the city would still need to require some right-of-way dedication as required.
Right, so along the Kennedy Avenue frontage, for whatever reason, we don't have at least it doesn't appear that we have the right of way for the existing sidewalk. So we'd at least need to condition the applicant to dedicate whatever right of way is necessary to make the existing improvements work. And we've been working with them as part of their vacation application. They were in exchange for vacating that sidewalk easement. They're preparing replacement easements for the ADA compliant driveways, as well as the additional dedication that's needed on Kennedy. That would, as a result of this, that would get narrowed because we wouldn't need the full 10 feet of dedication. We'd probably work with just 5 feet of dedication working from the front. So there would need to be some minor alterations to that. But And then that's assuming that council's comfortable vacating that sidewalk, that existing sidewalk easement, so that we can come back in the second meeting in February to formalize the abandonment of that easement.
So by doing this, he gets to keep more land.
Yes.
Bottom line, he gets.
Because it would make no sense, it would make no sense to take the full 10 feet of right of way along his frontage, you know, from the curb to the property line, because then we would have, like we have in a lot of other areas where you have this excess right of way behind the sidewalk that we just don't need and we don't want. So we would only take enough to maybe go 6 inches beyond the back of the existing sidewalk.
So basically our goal, from what I'm hearing, is to try to help him out and not have to take so much land we would have to fix industrial. We went through that, but Kennedy, he would have less dedication to the city.
Right, there'd be less
But
dedication.
he still has to fix the sidewalk.
Yeah, there would be, if there was some damaged sidewalk, it would have to be repaired. And then there would still be the 2 ADA ramps, the directional ramp going across Kennedy towards St. Lucie, and then the ramp going across industrial towards those townhomes.
Is the motion clear enough for you guys, Bill, or whatever we need to know? Is this clear enough that they can proceed to the next meeting?
Well, I am a little nervous looking at the current conditions of approval. Condition 18 has some very definite conditions as to construction of street widths. I don't think that the dedication requirement is quite as specific, so I don't know that that creates a problem.
Page are you on for the conditions? Packet page?
Let's see, I just lost it, but packet page 500.
Page 500.
And probably 499.
18, plans and encroachment permit fees deposit. So do we need to change something in there?
Let's see.
Says D is construction of a 5-foot wide city standard detached sidewalk and park strip. So that would be D would need to be modified.
D would go away.
So D is removed.
Right.
And then if I add that to the motion, does that meet then the rest of the requirements? ADA still, traffic control, driveway?
I would also say condition 14 on page 499 should probably be reduced from a 30-foot half street to a 25-foot half street.
Okay, so I'm going to modify my motion then, that conditional 14, fourth sentence, instead of saying a 30-foot half street, we're saying how wide?
25.
25 foot. And then item 18, D is removed from the requirements.
Right, and then item F, if you were open, you know, rather than doing the 5 foot, we could do the 4 foot. Right, the minimum for ADA.
Okay, so
that would be item F.
D is removed. F could be modified to 4 feet versus 5 foot.
Yes.
Okay, do I have on my second here, Serge? Second?
Yeah.
So do you agree to that? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
I have one question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
So is there, I always am very cautious about creating legislation on the fly like this because, you know, a week later, it's like, oh, gee, we didn't realize this or this condition isn't correct. Is there any reason that we could continue this and be sure that we have conditions in place that are have the right language? Or is everyone comfortable moving forward?
I would ask, I'd start with Elliot. What do you want him to come back or?
I'm totally fine with the better safe than sorry approach since we're trying to help. And we just want to make sure that we are indeed helping instead of creating more problems. So I'm totally fine with that.
So what you're proposing basically is to hold this discussion and consider till the next meeting for refining the language.
Right, providing the direction to staff to come back with the revised resolutions and conditions that are consistent with what it is that we're recommending. Because honestly, I'm not really quite sure. I'm still confused about the 4 foot and the 5 foot sidewalk. Because now it sounds like we're not going to have a 5 foot sidewalk. It's going to be 4 feet.
I would support, I can withdraw my motion and change it to be that staff incorporate the comments that we've made and have them come back to our, to be determined or at our next meeting, next available meeting.
Is the applicant okay with that? I mean, is there a time? Are we under some type of time constraint, Roger or Daniel?
When would the next meeting be? Because I have a wedding anniversary and
Okay, so
would like to know it more, but
continue to a date to be determined.
6th.
But we do need you to do whatever work to the drawings, the ordinances, and so it's really up to staff how long it takes to put a memo together and for you to figure out how long it takes you to draw it. But I do concur with Ann in thinking about it, that it is better to have you come back and we're kind of piecemealing the motion.
To clarify that, your request would also be for revised plans that reflect the changed conditions in the right of way, per your direction.
I would think we would need a revised drawing, and he's shaking his head.
attaching the sidewalk as is and putting a 4-foot sidewalk on industrial, etc.
We'll need to do a data search and we'll renotice the hearing.
Okay, so but staff understands kind of our conversation, and so we would move it to the next meeting to be determined. And is that a formal motion I have to make? So I make a motion that the project be deferred, incorporating the comments that have been made, and come back at a date to be determined.
I'll second.
All right, any other further discussion, Elliot? No, we're ready for a roll call.
Councilmember Bybee. Aye. Councilmember Furtado.
Aye.
Councilmember Scazola.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Yes, yes. Right. I hope we helped.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. Boy, I'm losing my voice. Excuse me. All right, we're going to move to item 15. Yep, I'm on. We're going to move to item 15, introduction of an ordinance amending the start time of regular city council meeting. We have Jose presenting. Hi.
Thank you. Good evening, honorable mayor and members of the city council. As directed by the city council during the December 5th meeting, as directed by the city council from December 5th meeting, staff has prepared the proposed ordinance in order to amend the Campbell Municipal Code to revise the start time for regular city council meetings. And I'm sorry,
Okay, can I help you a little here? Or maybe Brian can help.
So as we discussed at the last council meeting, the council questioned whether or not we should move the start time for the council meeting from 7:30 to 7 o'clock, and they directed staff to come back with an ordinance that does that. We brought that ordinance back before you this evening, simply striking out the 7:30 start time, the 7 o'clock start time. However, as an alternative, and this is described as alternative 3, we have prepared an alternative to allow you to set that start time by resolution. And so that's the desk item that was given to you this evening as an alternative that would allow us in the future to not have to amend this ordinance every time we want to change the time of the council meetings. And the plan would be, when you conduct a second reading of that ordinance, if you are interested in that alternative, then we would also bring that resolution setting the time for 7 p.m. as the council directed.
Okay. Then questions from council. Yeah.
I think it achieves what we suggested. It just makes it easier for us to make changes in the future should we decide to do that without the more formal ordinance change, by just do it by council resolution, which sounds reasonable to me.
So Dan, you're saying you'd prefer the alternative 7 a.m.
7 p.m. Yes.
Let's start at 7 a.m.
But were you commenting on the alternative that
the alternative just sort of transfer the ability to make this change by resolution rather than changing it in an ordinance in the future. But
And you're in favor of that? I'm just clear.
yes.
Okay.
So my understanding of this is by doing it by ordinance to get to 7, it makes it harder later to then change it if we want to. By doing the alternative 3, option 3, and the handout that was given, instead of setting a time, it says the council shall held a meeting as determined later by a resolution. It saves us time and energy later. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jose. At this point, if anybody have any other questions, I'm looking it over. No. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anybody here or online that would like to speak? Okay, I'm like hitting this gavel here tonight. So I close the public hearing. I'll bring it back for council discussion and or a motion.
I would simply move the adoption of item number 15 per the desk item language that we have tonight.
It's option 3. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have discussion on the motion.
Yeah, I did have a couple of comments before we got that. I support that fully. I could have gone either way, but I think it's common sense to go with this option. I do want to say, as I said before when this came up, I just want to make sure we're careful that we're not going up against the end of the workday, just to be considerate of the public and members who might want to come. I don't think that's going to be a big issue, as we saw tonight. You know, we can have an executive session and still start early. But there may be times, you know, when we would have done a study session where let's just be mindful that going forward does not need to be in the motion at all, but just as long as we try to be inclusive as we're going forward. Otherwise, I fully support it.
Yeah, and I would add on to that we have talked about that if we do need a long study session, we would have it after the council meeting versus before. You mentioned that earlier.
So that was brought up before when this came up, and that's why I felt the need to comment, because then you're getting an issue of if people want to show up, then you're forcing them to actually come later. And if the intent of doing this is to not have our meetings go so late, then that kind of defeats the purpose if it's going later. So again, I think those are all issues that can be worked around. I don't want to, that's why I'm saying let's be inclusive. Let's not default to just making it go super late, because that defeats the purpose. That's all.
Okay, and so by doing option 3, that we're leaving it open tonight. We're not picking 7 o'clock tonight. No. No. Right.
Yeah, but we don't pass a new resolution every time there's a study session.
No,
this is a side issue.
No, but what I'm saying is by doing option 3 tonight, we don't have to say, yes, it starts at 7. We're now saying that's going to be after the second reading, Brian, that we pick the time.
Do simultaneously or right after you do the ordinance, yes.
Okay. So you need a motion? Oh, you made a motion. I'm sorry. We have a motion and a second for option 3.
Councilmember Ivey. Aye. Councilmember Furtado.
Aye.
Councilmember Scazola.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Aye.
Looks like I'm going to read the title of the newly proposed ordinance. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Campbell amending Chapter 2.04 of the Campbell Municipal Code regarding council meeting times and location, and establishing that regular meeting dates or times of the City Council shall be set by resolution.
I'll waive the motion. I'll move.
Further reading be waived.
I'll second.
Motion and second to wait for meeting. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ivey.
Aye.
Councilmember Furtado.
Aye.
Councilmember Scazola.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Aye. Thank you. All right, we have no new business and there's no unfinished business. And the next one is the designation of a city representative for the County of Santa Clara Housing and Community Development Advisory Committee. And we have Rob Eastwood. Oh, yeah.
Good evening again. I don't have much to add. The county's asking for a representative and alternative for their Housing and Community Development Advisory Committee. Report should be self-explanatory, but if I can help in any way, I'm here to assist the council.
Does anybody have questions?
I actually have one question, and that is, this committee primarily makes recommendations to the Board of Supervisors regarding the community development block grants, which we participate in, as I understand it. But it also names another program there, and I'm not sure what that program is.
I believe Councilmember Furtado is a reference to the Home Investment Partnerships, the home program, correct? Yes. My understanding is the city also does participate in that program with the county.
Okay, what does that program do? I'm sorry.
Good question. I do not know the details behind that. One of the reasons we've hired a housing manager and work closely more with the county on that. So I don't have the exact details.
That's okay. I'm sure, you know, it could be worked on later. I just didn't quite understand that part of it, but that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody public that wishes to speak on this item? Anybody online? Nope. All right, I'll return this back to council discussion and or recommendations on who to appoint.
Well, just a brief comment. Don't feel bad, Rob. I served on that committee, and I couldn't tell you what that program is, but I'm sure we'll get more information. But that said, I would like to nominate Mayor Susan Landry to serve on the committee.
Second.
Any other nominations? And the alternate, we need an alternate. So Elliot,
I'd
you're
be happy to be
volunteering. Okay, so the motion is to me as the prime and Elliot as the alternate. Thank you for recommending me. And let's have a roll call vote on that.
Did we have a second?
Elliot,
okay.
Elliot second.
Wait, okay.
Okay, all right. So long as we're good.
Well, you seconded it with
Well,
only
because I'm-
me.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
we didn't second it with the.
I'll accept as a friendly amendment.
Just making sure. Elliot, do you accept this?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, now we have a motion and a second for the prime person and the alternate. So roll call, please.
Councilmember Bybee.
Aye.
Councilmember Furtado.
Aye.
Councilmember Scazola.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Aye. All right, so now we're at item 17, which is the council committee reports. And I'm going to start with Ann. And then we'll work our way across the panel here.
So first of all, I'd like to ask for some clarification on the Measure O ad hoc committee. And if I could get an explanation as to what that ad hoc committee, the responsibilities and duties of that committee and how that came to be.
Okay, so this is a follow-up from some other comments that I've had, and I spoke with other mayors from other cities, and they highly recommended that the council stay more engaged in the process. Dion from Gilroy they had an ad hoc committee, and they were under budget by quite a lot and under the schedule, and has really promoted that. Got me to think about this. And I talked to Brian. There's 4 things that is of interest. One is what is community feedback, whatever come up with the community. The second is staff and this whole parking situation and how that plays out. The third is the status of change order money, because we have 2 million plus money that hopefully we have some left over. And the fourth was tracking on the schedule. And the idea would be in the beginning, it may meet more frequently. And as time went on, maybe a couple months, it would taper off down to probably nothing. So within the year, by probably 6 months, it would not be meeting anymore.
So my understanding of an ad hoc committee is actually a temporary group of people that are brought together to perform a specific task or solve a problem. And I don't see what that criteria that you just set forth really how that addresses the creation of an ad hoc committee. I think it's in this instance with Measure O, I think there are ways to be able to keep the council and the public informed on the progress of the project without having an ad hoc committee, because what happens with an ad hoc committee is that the two individuals that are on the committee get information that the other three council members are not privy to. And I think that it's easier for the city manager to be providing updates to each individual council member at one-on-ones so that we all receive the same information. It could be done with an informational memo on a periodic basis. It could be even done at a council meeting under committee reports, a verbal report monthly or every couple months with the status of the project. I just don't understand the need for an ad hoc committee, and I think the council needs to make the decision that whether or not an ad hoc committee is needed, and it should be a vote of the council and not just the mayor's preference that we do this. So that's my comments on it.
Sergio. I appreciate it very much. Both. I think it's enlightening to hear from both. I'm not sure. Well, I'll just say this. I don't want to get into weighing in on either side. I'm a little concerned since it hasn't been agendized. I'm wondering if it should be something that's agendized or brought back just based off what we're hearing.
My understanding is we can't make a motion. It's not on the agenda.
I'm not making.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
We can't make a motion because it's not on the agenda.
Well, it is on the agenda. It's on our report, and it's two members have been appointed to the ad hoc committee. And the other three council members didn't get an opportunity to say, well, I'd like to serve on that committee. So how does that happen? And I think tonight is the right time to be talking about it and saying whether or not we want to create this ad hoc committee. I don't think you need an agenda item to have to talk about it. It's on our agenda tonight.
Could I ask a question? Because I can't remember from my time on the council, does the creation of a committee, I don't know if it's probably not a legal requirement or, historically custom, whatever, what has that been in the past, the process?
Traditionally, the mayor gets to appoint two committees, but the committees generally are formed by motion of the council.
And can we make that motion tonight?
No, you would need to agendize that to make the motion.
Okay, Dan?
Yes, I do agree with Ann. I just feel that Measure O has been so important to the city, and it involves a lot of money. And we have been, as a council, discussing this for quite some time. So I just feel that anything regarding Measure O should be brought to the council as a whole and just discussed. I mean, if we have to do a study session or just reports or one-on-ones or whatever, but I just feel that an ad hoc subcommittee might have the idea that they should be making recommendations or decisions, and I think it should be a council decision as a whole. I mean, likewise, even the creation of an ad hoc committee on a major city item like this should be the decision of the council as a whole.
There was no intent to be making decisions. It was to receive input so that I can go out to the community when they ask me questions, that I understand what's going on. And just as we're here presenting committees, it would be something that, whether it be weekly or every meeting or once a month, that the committee would come back and present just like we present on any other committee.
I'm sorry, I just don't support that.
Okay, so so we bring this back to have it be an agenda item to make a motion to decide on a committee.
Well, I'm not making the motion because I don't support the ad hoc committee, so I don't want to put staff through the trouble of creating or preparing a staff report when it's something that I don't necessarily agree with. So I'm not going to make a motion.
Okay, so my understanding that from what I read of the city code, it says that annually the mayor appoints committees. So that was where I started looking at this. Brian had mentioned that there's other items in the municipal code that talks about the committee and that had to have a purpose and it had to have its timeline. So I stated the purpose and the timeline. There was nothing else that I understood right to this point of whether it has to be a vote or whether it wasn't implied that it has to be a vote. So how do we proceed?
I think it requires a vote of the council. This is an ad hoc committee.
So if we have to have a vote of the council, it has to come back.
Well, I'm sorry, I won't make that motion either because I don't support it.
So how do, okay. If it stays on the list, is that doable?
Sorry, could I weigh in? Hearing the direction from staff that this would require a motion, I would like to make a motion, not because I'm not saying that I'm not prejudicing myself as to what form it's going to take eventually. I just think that I know we all share this commitment. We all know that Measure O requires transparency, and I feel that this process itself should be transparent, is worth a discussion. That's not impugning anyone's motives, because I know everyone agrees with that. I just feel that that'll be worth having the discussion. I'm not saying that I support the creation or that that's the right step. But even I think even if that results in a different outcome, it's going to be the public's benefit to have some of that discussion and transparency airing out. So that said, I make a motion and let me know if this is enough guidance to bring back discussion for potential ad hoc committee for Measure O, or well, I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
We have a second on the motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Well, I would encourage my colleagues on the council to vote no. I feel Measure O is so important. It involves so much money that anything on Measure O should come to the council as a whole. And I think it creates confusion to the staff about, oh, should we go to the subcommittee first before we come to the council or not? And I just think it's wrong. I'm sorry. And so I'm not supporting the motion, and I encourage you not to support the motion.
And if I could also add, we did have an ad hoc committee that was created during the Measure O decision-making process, and it created more trouble than it was worth, because two council members had were constantly meeting with staff, reviewing plans, really not really within their scope of their responsibility as council members, and it led to coming to council meetings. And for me, I was in the dark on a lot of things because two council members had information and I didn't understand where the information came from. It's because they had meetings with staff and as an ad hoc committee, and it just delayed the project, and it to me was not a beneficial process. So I just see the same thing happening with this, and I would encourage my colleagues not to vote for it either.
I had a question, being that I could see that actually that's an absolutely fair point that you just raised. I could see feet dragging or whatever you want to call it, but if there's too many meetings and there's too many questions and there's too much work, and then it slows everything down, I completely understand that. However, I am going to ask my fellow colleagues here, is it different now that we have the vast majority of things done? And then I see this as kind of like a absolutely making sure that things get done as we have already approved, kind of thing, more of a general, I don't see it as reading, I may be wrong, but like going line by line and nitpicking necessarily, but just making sure that the very, basics, the timeline, things of that nature get done.
Well, I'll go back to my original comment about what the purpose of an ad hoc committee. So what is the purpose of the committee? What problem are you solving, or what task are you working on towards the goal of Measure O? It's in the staff's hands. We as a council have voted for the project to move forward. We've awarded a contract. It's now up to the staff and our project team to implement that. And it's up to the staff to be responsible to provide the council with updates, but it should be done as a group. not as individual ad hoc committee who get information and it's piecemeal information. It's just, to me, an important project that we all should be involved in it, not an ad hoc committee.
And I furthermore think that it causes confusion amongst the staff, whether, oh, we better go to the subcommittee first, or, you know, before it comes to the council. It just, it complicates the whole process. I just don't think it's necessary. I just wish you would withdraw this action.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second.
And I just want to be very clear, my motion is not to create an ad hoc subcommittee. I respect everyone's views. I just want to be clear about what we're voting on.
What possibly are we going to discuss if it comes before us? Yeah.
I just don't think this is the appropriate procedure to be having this discussion now under council committee reports. I respect if people feel different, but I just think we need to follow a process.
We're not proposing any motions. I mean, you know, there is no legal basis for the mayor establishing an ad hoc committee of the city council. There is no basis for that.
I understand. I don't support that.
And I'm telling you what I was told by Brian. The municipal code says annually the mayor can appoint committees. The municipal
city attorney said appoint to the committees, not appoint committees.
We can look it up and read it if we need to. But the motion on
I'd like the attorney and the city manager to weigh in on the matter.
To be honest, when I was presented with that municipal code section, my response was, my assumption is that's the standard. So my assumption is that provision in your municipal code that says mayor shall make appointments to committees is assuming those committees have already been formed. Those are your standing committees. The council, that was my response.
Bill, do you want to chime in?
I was just looking for the particular code section that was being referenced. I have to admit, I have not read it specifically, so I'm trying to find it. I don't know if anybody knows the specific code section involved.
It's in chapter 2 of the but there's nothing in there, Bill, that's going to say that the mayor has the power to create a committee. It says the mayor has the committees are appointed by the mayor each year. And in my history with the city, that's the way it has been done. And there's nothing codified in the municipal code otherwise. So I'd like just to call for the question. I mean, we're debating something that, you know, we've got a motion on the floor, and we could probably go back and forth for the next half hour or so.
So I'd like to call the vote. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bybee?
No.
Councilmember Furtado?
No.
Councilmember Scazola?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lopez?
Aye.
Mayor Landry?
Aye, that motion passes. We will come back, staff will come back when at our next meeting.
Direction of the council.
Yes, I would prefer this to get resolved. Okay, and does anybody else want to make any committee reports?
Well, I just want to be clear, that wasn't the motion that was voted on, so I leave it to staff. I mean, you have the motion that's voted on.
I'm just struggling with the timing, the staff report for your next meeting, maybe the follow-up meeting.
That's
if we have to write
yeah,
staff report, research
there was
some
a
of these
motion, it was
issues.
voted on. I think
Have to engage with the city attorney. We're gonna have to quote statutes for you that we probably need some more time to do that.
Would you like to make any other committee reports?
Yeah, I attended the Cities Association meeting last week, and the creation of the JPA is pretty much moving forward, and they have sent out the letter or the signature pages for the JPA to the city attorney and the city manager, and they're waiting for the cities to respond to that. And that's the only other committee that I attended. Thank you.
I had my first meeting of VTA as vice chair.
And of course, as we know, there's absolutely nothing interesting happening at BTA right now. So I have nothing to report. No, it's going to be a great year. I have a lot of appreciation for Chair Cindy Chavez, who's bringing me in as a close partner on everything. And so please address all your complaints, and I'm sure more complaints to me. I'm in open book, but really do want to make sure that our city, our region is well represented and has a strong voice through some very difficult issues in the coming year ahead. And I appreciate those who reached out. We've set up some meetings and some calls with staff. So I think my hope is that we have that voice. So looking forward to it. I had 5 meetings in one day my first week, and it's just continued, but well worth it, I think. So I'm sure you'll be hearing more on that.
So I've got Silicon Valley Clean Energy Board of Directors meeting. So that one really cool thing that just got authorized last month, this month, $3.45 million authorized to already existing programs within SVC that'll increase customer rebates for decarbonization technology adoption and increase stakeholder engagement. So that's really good. We're obviously trying to push people to go electric in their homes as much as possible. So also last month I was extremely pleased. Some of the board members, including myself, were reaching out, doing a lot of rebates for people, as just mentioned. But one thing we were feeling was falling through the cracks is for multi-unit housing, multi-family homes, that, as you can imagine, a lot of landlords would not be so receptive to that because the savings don't necessarily get passed on to them. But there's now going to be a plan to address that and show all the benefits of truly, even for someone who might own a multi-family housing unit, that it actually is quite valuable for them to do such things as well. And we're going to be helping with rebates and other incentives to encourage that adoption.
I attended the recent meeting of the West Valley Sanitation District Board. It's the first meeting of the year. The district is still, in good fiscal shape and doing fine. I was elected the chair for this coming year, so I'll serve as the chair of that committee. I also attended today, actually, the meeting of the West Valley Mission College Foundation. That is the advancement fundraising arm for the district. And the point I wanted to make about that was that West Valley College is getting ready to celebrate their 60th anniversary of existence. And there'll be several events which I will advise you about. As you may know, once West Valley College was formed, the first college actually opened. It was in Campbell at the then abandoned Campbell Middle School. It stayed there for several years until the property that they currently have was purchased. But I also mentioned that this Friday at 1:30, there's a special reception there at West Valley College commemorating the opening of the brand new baseball field of the Hala Field. And it's a beautiful baseball field, and everyone is invited to attend the opening reception. You can stay for the game afterwards. There is going to be the first game of West Valley College against one of its opponents, but the reception is from 1:30 till 2 at West Valley College. And then finally, the Early Settlers Committee now has basically worked with the Chamber of Commerce over the last few years to transfer the responsibility for the Early Settlers celebration to sponsorship by the Chamber of Commerce. And they have agreed to take that over. And so the Early Settlers lunch this year will be on President's Day, February 19th at noon. That continues the tradition in the state of California for our Early Settler celebration to be the second oldest publicly celebrated event in the state, second only to the Tournament of Roses parade. So I hope you will keep President's Day in mind. And Carrie Perkins, our museum director, will be giving the keynote address on an aspect of Campbell's history. And that's all I have.
I did see that in the chamber newsletter today. they are posting it already about the early settlers lunch. It just didn't have the location. They showed Carrie speaking.
It's at the community center, Fortress City Bank.
Oh, okay, it didn't say on the thing yet where it was. I have not been here. I was at the United States Conference of Mayors in Washington, D.C. It was a great opportunity. There's like over 200 mayors from around the country that was there. And what I thought was really the most interesting is the first part was they asked any new mayor to stand up and say, I'm a new mayor. And I would say there were 10 or 15 women that said there has never been a woman in my city mayor before, or there's never been a person that's a minority or person of color. And it was really nice to see that there's that many more new mayors across the whole country. It wasn't just in one region that more women and more minorities are being brought forward as mayors. Then there were people that have been mayors for 40 years, but it was a great opportunity. I got to meet the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, I'll never quite say his name right, Pete Buttigieg, our Department of Transportation, Anthony Blinken was there. The mayor from Lviv, Ukraine was there talking about a program called Unbroken. So many people have lost limbs because of the mines and the bombs, walking in the minefields, that they're having a whole program about prosthetics, and he was there promoting that. And then Friday we had the chance to go and hear the president speak, and I had a perfect clear view of him and got to watch him, and he was pretty funny. He cracked quite a lot of jokes, and it was great. And then they had a nice reception. They had topics on mental health, and there was a woman there who is apparently in the United States the only psychologist and behavioral health specialist working for an architecture firm. And it's really talking about how behavioral health really comes down to the design of a building, the building materials, the fumes they off-gas, all that kind of stuff of what is being used. So I thought that was very interesting. And they also it talks about homelessness and mental health. So it was quite interesting to be part of. And then my other committees are both meeting. Wednesday is the Santa Clara Valley Water District, and Thursday is the library district. So I just remind everybody we have a 10 a.m. on Thursday groundbreaking for the police department, and that'll be out here in the large parking lot at 10 a.m. And then we as a council have a retreat at 1:30 on Thursday also. So, yeah.
Sorry, I forgot. Didn't mean to steal your thunder, but I did promise that I would share. I think everyone's received the invitation, but the League of Cities, in conjunction with the Cities Association of Santa Clara County, is hosting a legislator address this Friday at 5:30 p.m. in Palo Alto, Hewlett Packard. Certainly the public is welcome to attend, but definitely invite my colleagues. If you have any questions or haven't seen that email, please feel free to reach out, and I'll make sure to get that to you. But just want to plug that. I also want to say congratulations to Dan Orloff, the new president of the chamber. I had the pleasure of attending and swearing him in.
All right, and it does cost $50 to go on Friday.
Yes.
And it is not open to the public. No, it is not, because I looked at signing up today, and it is not open to the public, and it costs $50 to participate.
The city cost of that, but I did register, so I'll be there.
The city covers the cost of that?
I do want to say that based off feedback from some of my colleagues here, we have reduced the CR prices for events, so I'll put that.
Okay, so I will be attending now. All right, I adjourn the meeting.